Good afternoon, dear participants. On behalf of JPR Institute of Technology, I feel proud to welcome all the participants for the second day online FDP on web application security. Yesterday, we are even proud to say that the yesterday session has nearly crossed 3,500 views. Dear participants. And now today I would again express my heartfelt gratitude to the speaker, Mr. V.V. Giri, Director, DivSec1 Consulting Private Limited, for patiently answering all the questions yesterday, even by mail. So today we hand over the session to Mr. Giri to carry on the session. And dear participants, the attendance feedback will be shared by 3:45. Thank you. Now I hand over the session.
Good afternoon, all. Nice meeting you again in this wonderful session. We will shortly start our continuation of the yesterday's session. I'm just waiting for my screen to be shared. Just give me a second. I'll share my screen and then we can continue our web application assessment.
So in the meantime, there were some queries regarding the net banking passwords. Even the students have queries regarding net banking password.
Yeah, ma'am.
Could suggest them some ways in which they could secure their password. And one more interesting query was that, sir, they are saying in our Android phones these days, we are having our email, all other apps open. Does this give us a security threat? So these two queries were there, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Until we break our Android device or until we find a vulnerability on the Android device, all these apps are isolated. Those are called sandboxed applications. So one application cannot communicate with the other application until we give the permission to it. So if we maintain the integrity of the device without visiting some websites, malicious links and other stuff, the applications are all running on a separate container, so it is secure. But once you are installing multiple apps on it without even knowing what is the security risk of installing the app, and that is a time where the risk comes into your devices, and from there hacker can take control of it. So we need to ensure that we don't install applications from unknown sources. We have an option in Android device where we can enable installing it from unknown sources. So we should never enable it. We should not allow installing applications from unknown sources. We should not install applications which is not required, and we should look into the permissions that is required for each and every app. If we ensure this, it is perfect. It should be fine. Fine, ma'am. Let's go for the today's session. If I believe like we can start it, right? Ma'am, can we go ahead?
Yes, sir, we can start, sir.
Fine. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for that. Yeah. I'll just give a summary of what we have done yesterday, and then we can go ahead of today's session. Majorly, what we covered yesterday is we covered two types of client-side attacks. As I mentioned yesterday, the client-side attack is related to the attack which is happening to the customers who is connecting to the web application. So we had a look at two attacks, which is one is XSS cross-site scripting, and one is clickjacking. We had a look at both the attacks yesterday, a demo of it too. Today, our session is related to the server-side attack. Since we have just 1 hour of time, we'll not be able to cover all server-side attacks, but we will just start covering one attack. And if time permits, let's see if we can cover the other attacks based on the timing. This was the slide which was showed yesterday. I was explaining that this is the top 10 risk which is listed on OASP. So on OASP, the first attack or the first popular attack which they rated as A1 is injection attack, and the first word on the brief is SQL. This is so popular even today. This kind of injection attacks is happening all over the world. So we'll have a live demo of what is SQL injection attack. What is SQL injection attack? And let me show you a demo on it. Fine. This is a type of SQL injection attack. I just don't want to get into the types now. Let's have a understanding about what I'm actually speaking before we get into the SQL injection. Everyone here knows that in case you go to a login page, you enter your username and password. And how are you authenticated is this username and password will go to the server. The server will have a server-side code. The server-side code will take it to the database. The username and password is checked against the database, and once the username and password is right, it comes back and it says the username and password is right to the server, and the server will redirect you to a different page. This is how a normal login operation happens. Similar is what happens whenever we do a search query or we do some other queries on the application. All this is same, where the input that you give is going to the server side code on the application. The application checks the value and it takes to the database. From the database, it fetches some information and it will display you. This is the normal operation. Let me give you an example before we go for the actual SQL injection. I have an application here, and we are going to penetrate into this application now. The default web directory, this is a Linux machine. The default web directory is the var www.html, and I hosted an application here. Let me show you a login page. This is a code on a login page. You could see here, this is developed using a PHP. So let me show you. This is my application from I have a login page, and you could see a client-side code. When you just right-click and say View Page Source, you see a client-side code. The client-side code will have a form. The form will have a username field, the password field, and a submit field, and then it goes to the same page, which is login.php. This is what you see from the client side. But there are two sides of code. One is client side, another one is server side. To see the server side, what I will do is I'll go to this machine, and on this machine, I'll just show you what I have written on the server side so that you will have a better understanding how this login page works. So I go to that server, and this is that server, and this is the server side code. You could see that I have opened a PHP here, and I'm connecting it to a database using a connect.php page. What is on this connect.php? Let me just show you what is on connect.php before proceeding it. I'll just say cat and then say connect.php, and you could see that it is connecting to my database server running on 3306. 3306 is a port here, means it is a default port for MySQL. There's a database username, there's a database password, and there's a database which it has to connect, which the application has to connect, and there is a connection string here. Now, on the login page, on the server side code, what happens is it takes to the connect.php, it starts the session here, and it says that from the client side, there will be a post request. Normally on a web application, there are two kinds of requests. One is get request and other one is post request. I'll just give a brief about it. Let me switch to my Acker machine. You could see that there's a username and a password field here. Now this username and password, when I submit it goes as a post request. What happens is you could not see something on the URL level. What happens is it goes on the body of the request. Normally HTTP is a request and response mechanism, so the request goes as a body. So now what happens is on the login.php page, I said there'll be two parameters which comes as a username and a password, as a post request. And now this username and password, what this server-side code is doing is it says go to the database and see whether the table username has the username which is sent on the post request and as the password which is sent on the post request. Now this query is getting executed, and once it is executed, it will check the number of rows which got responded as part of this query. Now in case if the row responded is 1, in case if the username and password is right, the number of count will be 1. If it says count equal to 1, it says session is starting here, and it redirects to the guestbook.php page. In case if the count is 0, it says your login name or password is invalid. This is what is happening on a web application. For example, if I type some username and type some password and submit, it says your login name or password is invalid. If I type the right username and right password, it takes me to the next page. This is what is written on the server-side code. Now, what happens on the database? This is on the server-side code. Now, what happens on the database? Let's understand before we go for the actual SQL injection. Now, on the database, this is what is happening. I'll just log into my database. The application will take it to the database because the connect.php page was having the database credential and the database instance that it has to connect. The database instance is devsec1. So it connects to that database, and there are multiple tables here. One of the table that it is going to use is user. So it says select star from user, and it takes the request from your side, from the client side, and says where username equal to, it takes the username, let's say username equal to admin and password equal to admin, and then say a semicolon and enter. Now you could see that there is an empty set which was result, means the username and password is not right. In case if the username and password is right, now how many rows are returned is the number of rows which was counted is 1. So for a right username and password, there's 1 row which was returned, and for the wrong username and password, there is no rows which was returned, and that is what is written on my application server side code. So we can even say like this. We can just say select count and enter. You could see the count is 1. In case if there is a wrong username and password, the count is 0. This is what my application is currently doing on the server side code. It just says select star from user where username equal to a username and a password, and it counts the row. And this is how a server side code takes your information to the database, and it checks on the database, and then it verifies whether the count returned is 1 or 0, and then it makes you login. This is how a typical login page works. Let it be irrespective of whether it's PHP or ASP.NET or JSP. The mechanism is same. Now let's go further and let's understand about SQL injection. Now we have 3 main categories of SQL injection. One is in-band SQL injection. We have 2 types of SQL injection here. One is called error-based, one is called union-based. What we call as in-band SQL injection is I send some SQL query or through the application, and if the application is going to respond me back, we call that as an in-band SQL injection, because whatever I'm going to send as a query, it's going to respond me. We call that in-band. Error-based is something like where I throw some SQL query, and if it is going to throw me error, we call it as error-based. Union-based, we'll have a look at the union-based in detail today. And the other part is inferential SQL injection. On this kind of SQL injection, we don't normally get a response from the SQL or the application itself. It is basically like when I go for a login and trying to bypass, I use inferential SQL injection. Means I get no outputs from the SQL server. no valuable information from the SQL server, but still I can do SQL injection. That's called inferential SQL injection. And there's one more SQL injection called out of band, where I sent a request, but I will never get a response. When I do such a kind of SQL injection, I call that as an out of band SQL injection. We'll not be able to run through all these SQL injection types, but today what we will do is we'll take one example on in-band SQL injection, which is union based, and one example on the inferential SQL injection, which is Boolean based. So first we will try a Boolean based SQL injection, and then we'll go for union based SQL injection. Let me start with the Boolean based first. Now what happened on the application is, let me go to the database and I will show you some interesting stuff before we go for the SQL injection stuff. Now what I say is, I just say select star from user and enter. You could see the table there, right? As a developer, I'll be able to see a table and a row here. Now on my application, what happens is there is a condition where it says where username equal to admin and password equal to admin. I get empty set. But SQL has a very good, what I would say, very good feature, which accepts even a Boolean based query. This is an example. When I say select star from user, where username equal to admin, and give a condition saying or 1 equal to 1. Give a space here. Now what happens is, it says select star from user where username equal to admin, or see whether 1 equal to 1. This is a Boolean statement. I say 1 equal to 1, which means true. If I say 1 equal to 2, that means false. So what I say is, I say 1 equal to 1 and press enter. Just give me a second. I left the quotes there. Yep. I just say 1 equal to 1 and press enter here. You could see even if my password is wrong, it still throws me a row. So what is my application altogether written is, in case if the application is going to respond with count equal to 1, let's take it as authenticated and redirect him to guestbook page. This is what the application is all written about. So what happens is, in case on the username field, if I'm going to say my username is admin or 1 equal to 1, this goes to the server side code, and the server side code will take it to the database, and database will respond saying, yeah, this guy has 1 row, and the application will accept us to redirect to the next page. Let's try this practically from my hacker mission. I go to my mission from where I'm going to hack this application. I'll just log in. And now instead of typing a right username and password, I'll just say admin or 1 equal to 1. And I enter some random password here. And just say submit. Now what happened is, this has been taken to the server side code like this, admin or 1 equal to 1. As my application username request, this goes as a request, and on the password, it takes anything there. And then when I say submit, this goes to the server side code, and the server side code executes it, and it says the count is 1, and it redirects me to the next page. And this is called Boolean based SQL injection. Now instead of 1 equal to 1, you have multiple characters that you can give, like any satisfying characters. You can even say or a equal to a, and you can log in, or any satisfying conditions, like you can say 2 equal to 2. Let's say if I say 2 equal to 1 and I enter some password there and say submit, it still logs me in. That's not a Boolean accepting condition. Now that is where I've ensured that on the server side code, I ensure that the password field is never taken. Only the username field is taken here. So that is why it worked there. Let me say an invalid username and a valid Boolean condition and says a password there. And copy the same stuff and put it on the password field here and submit it. And you could see the username and password field currently worked here, because my application is vulnerable both on the username field and the password field. I can even give an hash here and give a random password and submit here, but it is still not taking because I ensure that username and password is valid on the application server code. And this is Boolean based SQL injection. Instead of this, if I'm going to say 1 equal to 2 and say submit, it still doesn't accept, because let me give it here 2 on the password field and submit it. It is still not accepting because it is checking the Boolean statement there where only the satisfying condition is accepted. Like this. Let me paste it here, copy this and paste it here too, and just say submit. And it logs me out again. This is basically Boolean based SQL injection. Let's have a look at the other SQL injection type, which is union based SQL injection. I'll just give a brief about the union based SQL injection before we get in. MySQL, I'm in the developer mission now. MySQL has a unique unique command called union select. Let me show that. When I say select star from user and just leave it here, and then say var username equal to admin, I could add some union commands after this, where I can say union select and give new command cascaded to the existing command. Now this union command, to do this union based command, what I need to know is I need to know the number of rows that this particular table has. To do that, I have a unique command in SQL which is called order. Let's say I say select star from I'll take one more table. I just say select star from command and then say order by 1 and enter. Now what happened is the first column is ordered in the ascending order, where 1 2 3, it was already 1 2 3, so it was 1 2 3 again. When I say order by 2, the second column is ordered. So now before it was defsec1, kth and alias. Now it is alias, kth and defsec1. Now in case if I'm going to say order by 3, on the command field it says awesome, great, and thanks for attending, ascending it on the alphabetical order. Now when I need to do a union based SQL injection, the first thing that I need to know is the table that I'm going to attack, how many columns that this particular table has. This is something which is very important that I need to understand before I do a union based SQL injection. Let me go to the hacker mission and let me show you this stuff. I have a page here called getinfo.php, and when I say id equal to 1, it throws me the first row. When I say, let me maximize it, I could not maximize the URL field, of course. I'll just elaborate it. I have just given the IP address. I just said getinfo.php and I said id equal to 1 and I get the first row. When I say id equal to 2, I get the second row, and when I get id equal to 3, I get the third row. Now this is so common, like you go to an application, you give some contents to it, and it is going to throw you the same content, fetching it from the database. Now instead of this, instead of, like, let's say instead of 1, I say order, I just say 1 order by 1 and enter. When I say 1 and order by 1, this is the command that I have entered on the URL. If you are not clear on the URL, this is the command that I have entered. You could see that I have one row which was responded. Even let me say if I say order by 2 and enter, you could see one row which was responded. When I say order by 3 and enter, you could see one row which was responded. What happens in case if I say order by 4 and enter, I get no response because I have no column which is the fourth column. Like I have no fourth column there on my application. So let me switch to my application database and I'll show you. I have one column called ID one column called name and one column called command. I have no fourth column. So from the actor's perspective, I'll just get to my actor's mission. From the actor's perspective, when I say ID equal to 1 and order by 3, till then I get the response. When I say order by 4, I get no response. So now this is a place where I can go ahead and try a union-based SQL injection. Now what happens on a union-based SQL injection is, instead of this order command, I can use some other command here, which is union. Let me show on my database first. You have a command called union. Let me go for this command, and I can say union select. I could say 1 comma 2 comma 3 and enter. You could see on my, this is my development mission where I'm just showing you for a demonstration purpose. When I say select star from command and when I say union select 1 comma 2 comma 3, you could see that there's one row which has 1 comma 2 comma 3. What happens when I say 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4? I'm going to get an error because I have only 3 columns. I don't have the fourth column. Now instead of 1 comma 2 comma 3, what things I can give is I can give any queries that I want. For example, if I need to see what is the version of the SQL server, I can just say 1 comma 2 comma at that version and enter. You could see the version of it. So this is from the developer mission. Let me show it from my hackers mission. So from my hacker mission, what I can say is I currently know that I have 3 columns. So what I would do is I will just say union select 1 comma 2 comma 3 and enter. You could see the same thing happens from my hackers mission where I get 1, 2 and 3 here, and this is the command that I have entered on my URL. 1 union select 1 comma 2 2 comma 3, and why I enter 1 comma 2 comma 3 is because I confirmed it that this particular table on which I am trying SQL injection has only 3 columns with it. Fine. Instead of 3, I can even execute a command here, just saying at that version and enter. Now you could see what is the version here, right? For an hacker to see a version is like getting a good chance to take control of the mission. So I get the version details. Now what other things that I can get is I can get all the stuffs here. In case if we are not aware about the commands, there's a popular website which is called Pentest Monkey. You can just do a Google search, because on the URL I don't get things clear. Let me do this stuff. Just give me a second. Yeah. Right. Just say Pentest Monkey and say SQL injection cheat sheets. You get the list of queries that you can run on the vulnerable application. Let me maximize it. The command that we tried on that is select at that version. Instead of that, in case if I need to see who is the current user who are logged in, so what I can do is I can just copy this user part on it, go to the vulnerable application, and on this place, instead of at that version, let me paste this and enter. You could see I have said union select 1 comma 2 comma, and then I have said user double quotes. You could see the username who has currently logged in is devsec1 at localhost. You can run all these commands from the Pentest Monkey and see what kind of privileges that you can acquire from this SQL injection attack. Let me take this way forward. What I will do is I'll show you something more interesting where you can take the system on your control using SQL injection attack. There's a good feature on MS SQL. I'm in a developer mission now. Let me show you something. There's a good feature on MySQL where you can dump your tables to a text file. There's a feature on MySQL. If you guys are aware, you should have been aware about it. Let me show you. In case if I need to dump a table, for example, if I need to dump a table called command to a text file, I can just say into out file and I can give an out file. Let's say I need to dump it to /tem and then say command.txt and then save it like this. Now what happened is this command table has been taken to an out file as command.txt. Now let me exit the database and let me show you that file. I'll just say temp on command.txt. You could see that this too has come to a text file. This is a feature which comes with a MySQL. You have a command called out file where you can dump your tables to a text file. There's a command called in file where you can dump the text back to the database table. So this is a good feature on MySQL. Let me show you how hacker use this to take the system shell. Let me go to my hacker machine. And on my hacker machine, what I will do is I'll just say, instead of 1, 2, 3, let me say, for example, you are act, and then take it to an out file. I'll just say into out file. And we need to put to a file which I can access it through the web application. So it is normally, it should be /var www.html. In case the application is going to allow you to upload some files, you may have a read write permission there. So that's the right place where you need to try this attack. So let me say act.html and then press enter. This is what I have written on the URL. If you are not clear on the URL, I'll just say union select 1, 2, and on the third column, I have just say your act, and I have put it to an out file with var www.html, and I have said act.html. In case if I have a write permission to var www.html, this file would have been generated now. Let's give a check there. What I will do is I'll just say 192.168.0.105 and just say act.html and enter. And you could see that the content that you have pasted there has come up here. Means that you have defaced the website, you have defaced the application. So this is something which a normal guy can do, which he can deface a website. Instead of that, we can even take the system shell. To take the system shell, it's so simple. Instead of your act, I'm going to just give a PHP script to it. If you guys are not clear, let me first finish it and then just show you. I'm just saying PHP system $get, and I say some parameter. I just say the parameter as defsec1. Close this and then do like this. For the guys who are not clear, let me show you that content. Let me create the page first. Instead of act.html, what I will do is I'll save this as act.php and press enter. Now I have put a PHP page. Of course, I don't get that script here because it's a PHP script. It's a server-side script. I don't get it there. How do I show that now? The script that I used. Let me open Google. For the guys who are not visible, let me show my script there. This is my script, which I have pasted it on the URL. For the guys who are not visible on it, I just showed that. So let's see whether I have created act.php there. I just say act.php and enter. I have a page generated there, but now it's a time where we need to take the system shell. So to take the system shell, what I would do is I have given a parameter there called defsec1. I just say defsec1 equal to and just say ls. I don't get the command there. Maybe something wrong here. Yeah. I just missed one yes there. Instead of system, I just said this. So this is a command PHP system $get and a parameter and then close the quotes. This is what I have put there. I'll just generate a new page there called act1.php and let me try on act1.php now. Just say act1.php and you can see that the pages are listed, that the files inside that directory is listed. For example, if I need to see the IP address of the machine, I can just say ifconfig and enter, and I could see the command getting executed there. Similarly, I could say who am I, just to see what is my privilege there, the username. It shows me defsec1. I can run Linux commands there because it's a Linux machine. I'm running Linux commands there. just to show you how the shell works. These are all things that I can do manually. So whatever I have done manually, there are automated tools to do that. Let me show you one automated tool so that you will have a better idea, so that in case if you are going to face some web application assessments, that's going to be really helpful for you. The tool name is SQL map. What I will do is I'll just copy the URL and give it to the SQL map. That's what I need to do there. So what I can do is, this is my Hacker machine again. I just say SQL map -h, you get all the syntax of the tool. You don't want to do anything, just say SQL map and then say -u for the URL, paste it, paste the URL where you need to do the attack. So it is SQL map -u and the URL. And in case if I need a OS shell, the command shell that we got there, similarly, I can say OS-shell. The command is here on the L. You can say OS-shell. It may ask a lot of questions to you. Just say yes, or what you can do is you can say -batch, so that SQL map will never ask you a question. It takes the default value and it starts doing attack. So I just say SQL map and the URL where I need to try the SQL injection, and I say -os-shell and I say -batch, so that SQL map will not ask me a lot of questions. So I just say enter here and it starts doing the attack. And you could see that I got the OS shell. I can run any commands here. I can say ifconfig and enter. You could see that I have that system shell and the command of that command got run and I got the IP address. I could say ls to list the files. I could say who am I to see who am I. Or I could say cd dot and ls. Now I get the files there. I could say ls/ will take me to the root directory. So whatever you need to do from that machine, you can always do that using the system shell. There are a lot of commands on the SQL map. Let me show you one more command here. You can even say -f tables to dump the tables, to list the tables actually. So you could see the tables of that MySQL. So I have two tables on that machine. One is username and one is the command part. You can even dump all this. You can just let me do everything together. To do all attacks together, you can just say -a and enter. It will just dump all directories, sorry, all tables, all columns from the application, from the database. And it will also do some password attacks on the fetched hashes, all this stuff. Let me just close this because it's going to run for a longer time. The dump which was collected is stored on this directory on the root.sql map output, and you could see the SQL injection done applications here. My application currently is 192.168.0.105 and I enter. You could see there's a log, there is a dump folder. Let me go to the dump folder there and press enter. You could see that one of the database is devsec1. Let me log into devsec1 and enter. You could see that is a user file and a command file. These are dumped from that machine. I just say cat user.csv and you could see that particular table was dumped automatically. So this is how you use SQL map. It will just do whatever we have done it manually. All that we need to do is just say SQL map -u and then say the URL and then say what is the command that you need to run. And if you need to say -batch, you can just run it. So this is a common practice or a common tool that a lot of hackers, a lot of penetration testers will use to automate SQL injection. Let me give you some more interesting stuff before we go for the query session. Sometimes we get a page like this where instead of a get request, there may be some post request where you need to enter the parameter here. For example, I can do the same stuff here. When I say 1, I get that. And when I say 1, order by 1, I get the same stuff. When I say 1, order by 3, or order by 4 directly and submit, I get no columns. So I can do this as a post request. Now let me show you the difference between a get request and a post request. To do this, I have a tool called Burp Suite. It comes default with Kali Linux. You can just install it. Let me show that. What I will do is I will intercept my traffic through the Burp. Burp is a proxy tool just to make our life easy. It's like it intercepts the traffic between the browser and the server, so that you can modify a request and send it to the server, and whatever comes from the server you can modify the request and send it back to the browser. So it's a proxy server which intercepts the traffic. This is one of the best proxy server that a lot of penetration testers use. So what I will do is I will start sending the traffic to my proxy and intercept the traffic there. So what I can do is this kind of post request, I can just say 1 or order by 1 or 4. And then click submit there. I get it to the proxy. I'll not be able to maximize this. So what I would do is I'll just open my notepad and then show it clear to you. Or like this, the better option. This was my Burp request. In case if you cannot see, it is just sending a post request to the application server, which is running on 192.168.0.105. And this is the post body. It takes ID equal to 1, order by 4. And this is going on my Burp proxy. So what I can do is I can use my Burp proxy on a smarter way. I can just say copy this file and save it. Let me save it as post dot, or I'll just say posting.txt. And now I will use my SQL map again to do an attack on a post request. To do that, what I will do is I'll just say SQL map -u, paste the URL here, or I can just say -r and then go to the downloads folder. I have saved that on the download folder. So I'll just say posting.txt, and then I can say -os -shell, and then -batch. So I can still get a OS shell, not doing it manually. What I did is I intercepted the traffic through the proxy. I saved the request to a file. And once I save that request to the file, I just redirect my SQL map saying that I have a file. Just take that file, take the parameter from that file and do an SQL injection. I just said -OS shell to get the shell of the system, and then -batch. So the same thing happens, but it happens on the post request now. Because we are not comfortable doing it manually, we can use tools like Burp Suite, intercept the traffic, and then put it to the SQL map, and the SQL map will do the stuff for you. This is about the SQL injection. I thought I'll give a explanation. You can start raising your queries. If you have any queries, I'm here to answer you. We have 15 minutes of time for you to answer the queries. Please go ahead.
Sir, thank you. The session was really nice for showing us both about the automated way of SQL injection as well as doing it manually also, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
So many of them have just asked about the PPT, and there are
Yes, ma'am.
various feedback saying it was an excellent session.
Thank
We
you, ma'am.
have 500 people watching online, sir,
Great,
at
ma'am.
present.
Great.
So let's
Thank
wait
you
for
all.
your
Thank
queries,
you so
sir.
much. Yeah.
We'll just wait for the queries for another
Sure.
2 minutes, sir.
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
So, like yesterday's query, can you just tell us some easy way to protect our net banking passwords, sir?
Yeah, ma'am. As I said yesterday, use complex password, change it regularly. Don't use the password which is similar to your other accounts like Gmail or other stuff. Change the password regularly. Use virtual keyboard. This stuff will really help. Wherever is possible, try to use OTPs, enable OTPs so that you get a one-time password. for your transactions, one-time passwords for your login. Now banks are starting to give you the two-factor authentication. See if you can use two-factor authentication mechanism.
Oh, okay, sir. Sure. Thank
Yeah,
you, sir.
yeah.
Dear participants, do you have any queries? Sir, need an explanation about server attacks, sir.
Fine, ma'am.
What is server attack?
Yeah, fine. Let me give you a detailed thing in case if you have not understood it. Normally, from the hacker's perspective, we have two targets when you do a application attacks. Who are these two targets? Is one is the server itself, other one is the customers who connect to the server. Now we have two targets here. Now, if I'm going to target the customers who are going to connect to the server, let's take an internet banking. For an internet banking to connect, I can target the customers. Maybe a bank has thousands of customers. All that I need is their username and password. If I'm going to target the customers and collect the username and password, I call that as a client-side attack. When I'm going to target a server directly, for example, the one that we tried now is SQL injection, where I have targeted the server directly. When I'm going to target the server directly and do an attack, and that is called server-side attack. And when I'm going to target the customers who is going to connect to the application, I call that as a client-side attack. Is that clear, ma'am?
Sir, the next question,
Yeah,
can
ma'am.
we do a live, can we do SQL injection on a live website?
Yeah, ma'am. As I explained yesterday, without getting a permission for a particular organization, you should never try all these attacks on live. But we, as a penetration testers, we have done on multiple websites getting their permissions as part of our project, and which you are authorized to do. But if you, in case if you are really passionate about doing this hacking stuff, you can simulate your own web application on your own mission. There is one popular server which you can get it from the internet. I'll just show you. They give you a live server which you can host it on your mission, which as a VM mission, and then you can try it. Stop my interception. There are a lot of video tutorials related to the web application attacks, and you can even download BWAP. It is available on the GitHub. You can just download it, you can put it on your mission, and then you can try all your attack practices on it. Or if you need to try something live or learn more stuff, you can try Hack the Box. This is one of the popular organization who gives you 20 missions, and you can try all your hacking stuffs on their missions. You can try this Hack the Box if you are interested, or you can try a website called Vulnerable App. Even they give you VM missions. You can download it to your missions, and you can try all your hacking practices on it. Or you can just say Web for Pen Testers. They give you a live VM. What you can do is you can just download that VM, and you can practice all this SQL injection, cross-site scripting, and all other attacks through the Web for Pen Tester VM missions.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Yeah, ma'am.
So there's another question. Can we
Yeah.
take a full control of the URL?
You can take complete control of the server itself, man. It depends upon the vulnerability. We are during our penetration testing, we have taken multiple servers under our control, and there is a concept called lateral movement. What we do is, with this application control, we move to the next systems. So yes, it is possible.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Yeah.
There's another query, sir.
Yeah.
One of the participants has said, if I hosted the server-side code in a hosting server like GoDaddy, what type, if security, they will use?
Okay.
A firewall, can it prevent such attacks?
Okay. A normal firewall cannot block all web application attacks. There are web application firewalls on the market. In case if they have a web application firewall, it may protect the web application to a certain level, but it's not 100% secure. We have breaked into web application firewalls multiple times during our penetration testing activities and taken control of the application.
Thank you,
But
sir.
coming to the GoDaddy part, if you are going to do a shared hosting, they don't, protect your web application. You need to protect your web application on all levels on the coding level.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And there's another question. SQL injection is database attack.
Yeah.
How to do hard disk attack? Can we do?
Okay. It is not about hard disk attack, man. Like normally when we do a penetration testing, our interest is more of taking control of the server and learning more what are the files inside the systems. So you can crawl through the complete file system if you are able to get the shell of the system.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
So there's another question. How can we secure our details from the Zoom app?
Okay. Now there are only two ways that you can do. Number one, the permissions that you give for a particular application can be decided by you. So now you can decide which permissions has to be given to which app. Now that is the way that you can control. But if you are going to give a permission to that app, the app takes control of it. So they will be able to do whatever is permitted to them. So it is about the permission that you give on a particular application.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, ma'am.
So, and then someone has said, so what is a secure web application? Mention any one.
Okay. Now, web applications, like we could not say that is something called secure web application. It is how it is actually coded. Now, all these vulnerabilities can be stopped or even restricted by proper coding. Like, for example, SQL injections can be blocked by using parameterized queries. There's a concept called parameterized queries. And cross-site scripting can be blocked by validating the user input. So there are multiple recommendations that has to be implemented to protect a particular web application. So there is no off the shelf saying this is perfect, this has vulnerability.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah,
Sir, I think this is a query from one of the faculties.
Yes,
He's just said, is it nowadays we are using online classes? So we give our mail ID and mobile number to various websites.
Yep.
Is it really safe? Please
Okay, ma'am.
explain.
Fine, ma'am. I've seen multiple organizations where they have lost their information, which we have actually given. Like, for example, 4-5 years before, we had an incident from Sony. I think even before we had some incident on the Microsoft, and there are a lot of organizations which I can list. So the information that we share with the other web application, other sites, we are not pretty much sure that it is 100%, it is protected, because it depends upon the security of the web application. So ensure that you give only what is required, or if it is critical, then give your information. If it is not critical, better to avoid giving your personal information on any web application.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So, and many of them have said thank you for the answering the various queries.
Thank you all.
And
Thank you so much.
and as a last question, sir, again,
Yeah.
how can we prevent URL live from SQL injection, sir?
Okay, and that is what I was talking about, ma'am. It is about parameterized queries and input validation protections. If you are not going to allow a guy to enter some scripts into the input field, you are already protecting him from all input validation attacks, which also includes SQL injection. And SQL injection can also be prevented using parameterized queries. You can just do OWASP. You can go to the OWASP website and then say SQL injection prevention. They give you the complete mechanism to protect SQL injection.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, sir, for answering all the queries.
Thank you,
Sir,
ma'am.
now we have two of our participants would like to share their feedback with you, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
So now I request Ms. Rachel to share her feedback. Please, Ms. Rachel.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, Rachel, go ahead. Now I request Ms. Aruna to share her feedback. Please, ma'am. Yes, please share your feedback. Rachel? So I think they are...
Good afternoon, ma'am. Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Good afternoon to all. Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge about the web app security. To be honest, I got to know a lot from these 2 days webinar. Sir, I really thank you for making especially these afternoon sessions very interesting. Thank you for patiently explaining everything with a demo and also for answering all our queries. I hope all the other participants like me would have also enjoyed and gained a lot from these sessions. I thank JPR Institute for having taken this initiative. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Rachel.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Session was really... Hello, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, yes, it's audible, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am. Ma'am and sir, the session was really useful. It was like an eye-opening session on web applications, and all the demo that you gave really gave an clear insight about the security and the attacks on these web applications. And the way you answered all the queries were really awesome. And thank you so much for this wonderful session, sir. And we expect many more useful and good sessions from you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Sonia ma'am. The way you coordinated the session was really good. And thank you for JPI Institute of Technology for picking up a hot topic and making the session really useful. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Good evening to all the participants. JPR Institute of Technology had always wanted to promote futuristic technical education with the perspective of innovative industrial and social application for the betterment of humanity. On the same note, I would like to thank our Managing Director, Sir, Dr. N. Maria Wilson, for helping us conduct this online FTP, our Principal, Ma'am, Dr. L. M. Merlin Livingston, for a constant support and encouragement. I would also like to express my heartfelt gratitude to the speaker, Mr. V. V. Giri, Director, DivSec 1 Consulting Private Limited, for his 2 days hands-on session on web application security. Thanks a lot, sir. I would especially like to mention his patience in answering all the queries with the demos. Thank you, sir. I would like to thank all our participants for their constant support and encouragement. We wish you success and good luck. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. The certificates will be distributed. Kindly fill in your feedback forms.